Happy Friday. Matthew, how are you, sir?
Thomas, I am doing fantastic. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's Friday. I'm excited. I just watched a live tornado touchdown in Wyoming. Yeah, as I was watching severe thunderstorms coming to your area.
And I was so excited because we had the storms that were rolling in, and I texted you because I thought there's no one's going to be as excited as I am about these. So let me see what Thomas thinks about it. And then it falls apart just on the outside of town.
I know.
Lots of rain, though.
Speaking of environment and disturbances and things kind of coming in, I think we've got something here in the area. If we can bring this in, what do we have here?
Hurricane Scott.
We've got Scott live in Virginia.
Yes,
can you hear
in the rain, as a matter of fact. I can hear you.
Perfect.
I'm standing out in the rain. I've got these huge trees that are up me, but not. They're just dripping massive drops on me. We've had there's a hurricane parked over our little town, but it's been dumping around here, inches of rain. Every time we have to walk across campus, we get torrential downpour. So I'm on my sixth pair of clothes for the day.
Oh no.
Humidity is about 150% and 85 degrees, 80 degrees. So it's heaven up here. How about you guys?
Well, this podcast, my AC works and I have internet, so I'm excited.
Scott, you just now gave me a fantastic idea for some new MHL swag. I think I need to do an MHL umbrella that says Rainmaker on it.
How fast can you get it here?
Drop ship it from China in 7 weeks.
Yeah, Mrs. Ari actually told me to bring an umbrella, and I'm thinking, nah, we won't need an umbrella. It's so bad.
I'm looking for her in chat right now. I'm looking for the hashtag I told you so.
I think she knows I'm going to be on here. I'm the photographer for our little event up here. So I have to bail. I can't stay for too long. I can stay for just a minute. But I've got to go in and take pictures. All the youth that we're up here with are having a big old dance tonight for the last night party. And I have to document everything for posterity or some insurance purposes. I forget why I'm taking the pictures, but I'm doing
it. Because you're good at it. That's why.
This is true. Did you find this out before you went up there or once you got there?
It was a surprise. It was a surprise. Oh, you have a camera. Guess what? You're our official photographer in addition to your other duties. Pays the same, $0. So, it's all good though. Hey, Georgia Culture. Good to see you there. Oh man, chat's going nuts.
There we go.
Have you guys, how's the week been? I've been so busy. I mean, this is as calm as I've been all week long. Has it been crazy this week? I know there's all sorts of news.
Yeah, so we've definitely missed you. We've all kind of congregated in a few different channels to keep on with Scott Peterson for the most part. So that camaraderie has held strong, but the chat's not the same. The commentary, the insight, the fun, the lighthearted laughter. I will say I opened the stream, the placeholder for just the podcast about 5 hours early, and people just flocked in so they could have a safe place to come chat and hang out. And enjoy. So you are absolutely missed 100%. Everyone is.
You guys are amazing. It's the community that everyone misses, but I'm glad I can be there for you.
It's I've never seen a group that is looking forward so past the weekend to get to Monday morning and have you back that I've ever seen before.
I hear in the Scott Peterson case we're going to start with closing arguments. So it didn't go to Verdict Watch yet, so that'll be good. I was afraid it would miss the whole thing. I'd have to go back and replay to see what happened, but we'll pick it up with closing arguments tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Monday, so.
The good thing is it was pretty uneventful the days you were out. So no big blockbusters, anything like that, and you get to pick up in a great spot. So
looks like Mrs. already made it.
She...
I haven't. This is the best. This is the closest she's come to seeing me since I left. For about 2 minutes. But I'm running on about 3.5 hours sleep. Last night we had an issue with kids locking themselves out of the dorms, and somebody had to drive an hour to let them in. It's a disaster.
Oh man,
I'm looking forward to sleeping tonight very soon.
I can and getting home. I bet.
Yep.
Oh, we've got one here for you. There you go. Sustained objections.
Until 1:30.
It's booming. He had a few during the jury instruction discussions as well. So it was.
So that's the objection counter. Yeah, Grainers are sending me some updates as well on that. So that's, I thought there was another 14 or something today.
Yeah.
So 130 is the number. We'll update that.
Absolutely.
I've missed all of the last couple of days of Scott Peterson trial. I mean, I figure that if I don't get to watch with Scott, what's the purpose, really?
Oh man, you guys are funny. I'm actually excited to watch this on replay. I know I won't be able to stick around and listen, but I can't wait to hear the interview. I'll just brag a little bit. I got your quiz question right today. I think it was yesterday, but I'm a little bit behind. But I was sort of patting myself on the back. I think I sprained my shoulder doing so. But
Too good. Well, all right. So glad you could jump on and join us while you're away. That's awesome. We didn't even know if this was going to be able to happen or not, and you popped in. So that's awesome. We miss you.
We do miss you.
You guys are doing amazing. I'll be back on Monday. I will watch this on the replay and leave comments. I'll try to respond to them sometime in the middle of the night tonight because I don't think I'll be sleeping. But
Fair enough.
You guys.
So
Have a good one.
Closing arguments Monday, 9 a.m. Eastern. You're live, right? And streaming?
I'll be there.
Perfect. Everyone's going to be excited.
Sweet. See you guys. Have a great podcast.
All right.
All right. See you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott. That's so awesome that he jumped in there and to hang out
I know.
with us a little bit.
It's great that he finds time not only just to make time for us, but also to make time for the chat, because that's something he was really interested in, and that's just fantastic. That's just the kind of guy that Scott is, though. That's not surprising. That's just who he is.
It's 100% who he is. Absolutely. So before we kick this off, I'm assuming everyone in chat kind of knows, but if they don't and they're just popping in, we know RA, he's out of town. He's on a trip. He'll be coming back home tomorrow. So we are blessed with Matthew Harris Law guest starring on the podcast this Friday. And we're going to go through a little bit of an interview process. Just everyone knows you, but just to get to know you a little bit more and put you in the hot seat, because that's always fun and awkward. So that's kind of the plan.
Well, I mean, this is awkward for me because I'm the attorney and I'm usually the one asking the questions. And so today I get to answer them and I get to see the other side of that coin. So I'm looking forward to it.
Even better. I love it. So before we kick this off, a couple housekeeping matters. I did see Portland Trailblazers TV won the internet roughly 5 hours ago when this placeholder went live. So
Wow.
Good luck for the podcast and how we get going. And the other is DSN donated or gifted 5 memberships before we went live. So DSN, thank you so much for that. That's incredible. That we weren't even live or anything, just gifted away.
That's impressive. That's why this channel has such a great chat and great people. And I think that's why it's been so successful over this 8 months, eight months of life.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to make a quick switch here on my little script I've done. I'll just roll with what I got. It's all right. So let's kick this off if you're ready.
Yep. Let me first say, I want to point out a specific request I saw in chat from Ricky. Howdy, partner.
How far back was that with Ricky? Was that recent?
Oh, it was just before the super chat.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
There he is.
Ricky saying hi to Matthew. There it is. Wave at your Texas friend. Love it.
Howdy, partner.
Absolutely love it. And then a super chat coming in from Brianne Malcolm. Between the objections is SP and all the sidebars and the only case. Hello. It's been a week. Absolutely. It's been a week. Wild case. It's I get another sidebar here for us. It's just funny. Every case we kind of tune into that we don't, it might seem on the surface level a little mundane before we start it. And there's fireworks or there's turns and twists and
Mhm.
almost every single one. It really blows my mind.
Well, honestly, that's how most trials actually go in real life. It's the ones that you don't think are going to be crazy, and then you get into the middle of them, and then you realize that there's a lot more here because either your client didn't tell you something, or you had overlooked something that you didn't think was that significant, and then it turns out that that was extremely significant. And so then it's the trials that you weren't really putting a lot of effort into because it was just ho hum, and then it blows up, and it is catastrophic every time.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Especially on the side of your client not giving you all the forthcoming information that you need because you've taken all that information prior to now build the case and your argument. And then all of a sudden, here's new information. Thanks. This could change my whole dynamic and the whole route I'm trying to take. Yeah. I don't think I could do it.
Oh, I remember one time I had a trial where we it was a family law case, and we were in court because of the other side's allegation that my client was having a mental break. And so my client's like, "Oh, it's not that big of a deal. It was just the medication." And then on the witness stand, the other attorney starts pointing out that you were previously hospitalized for this same exact behavior that you're exhibiting now. And I'm sitting there just thinking to myself, why didn't she tell me this? This would have been important information to know.
Crucial information. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, let's dive into this. For those of you that obviously already know, but those that don't, Matthew Harris Law is one of the original subscribers with the RA Recovery Addict channel. I believe, if not the first, one of the first attorneys who graciously chimes in, doesn't give us advice, but insight and experience and knowledge in kind of what's taking place, which is great because my knowledge is so minute. So I'm going to kick it off in these questions. Some of it are going to be starting off a bit more general, and then we're going to dive into kind of you and your law and practice and stuff like that. But first and foremost, when and where did you find RO's channel?
Oh, run that by me one more time. Your microphone was cutting out there for a second. I'm sorry.
Oh, when and where did you come across RA's channel and become a part of that community?
It was during Daryl Brooks. I remember watching Law and Crime. That's, I think, where most people started with it.
Yeah.
And so I was watching some Daryl Brooks trials. Honestly, the big purpose is I was watching that train wreck of a trial and going and commenting on videos because, he's pro se representing himself. And so I'm just commenting on Law and Crime as they've got like little snippet videos. And then there was a day where they didn't have hearings, and I came across RA's live channel. And it was a small chat at that time. It was back in mid-October of last year.
Okay.
And so I start commenting, and I like right away, Scott says, "We've got an actual attorney in the chat here. What's going on?" And so I started talking a little bit more about the trial and just sharing trial experience. And he showed all the love and appreciation that Scott always does and just made me feel welcomed. And I said, you know what? This is the community that I want to stick with. And so no one knew it was going to blow up as fast as it did. I knew from the outset that at some point he was going to blow up, but it blew up a lot faster than I think most of us expected it would. And I said, this is just where I like to be.
I love it. Yeah, same here. I found him during Brooks, and as Mrs. R.A. says and points out to you there, that was the very first one that he did, and what a first one to stream. I mean, like you said, he's going pro se, but not only did he go pro se, but he was just living on another planet while doing such. So it was, you hate. I don't hate to say it. I don't know how to place this because he's an individual too, obviously very troubled. But on the side of that, it created a lot of entertainment for everyone else that got to watch and see and learn some things as well. But yeah, so I agree with Mrs. R.A. and yourself as well. I think Brooks brought us all kind of together as far as the initial stages went. That kind of jumps into the second question then. why do you enjoy, or what do you enjoy most about being not only just a mod on the RA channel, but as well as a guest? You obviously make appearances and you give insight, either you call in or appear, via Zoom. What do you enjoy about that, and what kind of attracts you to that?
So it's kind of a funny story how I got turned into a mod. It wasn't because I had any sort of special skill. I just remember one day, maybe day 2 or day 3 of the Daryl Brooks trial, and tuning in, and Scott said, "Hey, Matthew, I've made you a mod, and not because I expect you to do anything, but just with us having your legal insight here, I just want that to show up blue on the screen and easier to see." And so it was out of Scott's necessity. It's Scott's desire to be able to read my comments faster in the chat. And so this was the first channel I've ever been a mod for. It's the only channel I've ever been a mod for. And so I've kind of been learning as I go about some of the mod duties. And it took me 6 months before I learned that there was a mod Facebook chat for us to even be able to talk to each other. Because y'all are talking about, hey, go to the mod chat, and I'm on Discord going, what are they talking about over here?
Right. Exactly. That's funny. So it's really my first channel to mod for as well, in regards of actually having responsibilities. I was or am a mod for a smaller storm chasing channel, but it's very small, and there's not much. It's very self-governing, if you will. So there's not much to do there, but that's kind of funny how that came about.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking with YouTube and doing all that, you obviously, a lot of people know, have your own channel. You upload a lot of shorts that they're, again, we can't say advice, right? But insight into the law. Your quizzes are awesome. What do you enjoy most now that you have your own YouTube channel and it's growing significantly? It's getting a lot of traction and a lot of activity. What do you enjoy most about having your own channel?
Okay, so I started my channel back in, forever ago. I mean, years and years back. And I started off by just putting a couple of interviews or just introductions for our attorneys that we could link to the website. And then I realized that there was the potential there to save clients money. And so some of the stuff that we were just telling clients on a regular basis, like how to preserve text messages, how to upload files via Dropbox, how to testify, I started putting those into videos, not because I really thought that I was going to be a big YouTube star, but because I could just send this to clients and they can watch this rather than having to pay me $2.25 an hour to explain the exact same information. And so that's kind of how it started with the channel. And then as it's grown, what I've really learned to love, I guess, about the community is the comments. We were always taught, don't read the comments because they're usually crazy and wild. And until today, I've never really had very much of the crazy and wild YouTube comments. It's been pretty constructive. Mm-hmm. But then today, it's been nothing but absolute entertainment value reading the comments from people that are commenting on there, because they have just such varying viewpoints on controversial topics that I find entertaining, number one, and educational, number two. So that's the part that I like, is not just the producing videos and watching the channel grow, but it's the interacting with the community and kind of the gamer side of me, so to speak, of being able to unlock achievements as I'm going through. Because the more you're involved on YouTube and the longer you're on there, and as you grow, you unlock certain features or you get access to features early, like the quiz that I had early. And so that's something that I've really enjoyed that I wasn't expecting to enjoy.
That's cool. That's fun. It's I understand what you're talking about, especially more so for you, not for me, because your channel's much bigger and growing. But as you start to grow, you're inviting that criticism in, whether it's constructive, educated, or not at all, and just left field. You're really putting yourself out there. And my channel's still so small, and I'm not putting out the content. Part of that's that fear of, man, the busier you get, the bigger it gets, then the more criticism you start to obtain, which is scary because no one likes, even when you read it, it's from far left field and you brush it off, you still read that, that comment and you took it in for a second, right? Before I continue on, we've got one from Dodie here. We'll shoot this your way. Will DB get an appeal trial? I think I know the opinion on that, but I'll let you take. Yeah, I feel the same.
So, Dodie, that's a really good question, because a lot of people think an appeal, if they are appealing their case, then, oh no, well, they're going to get a second chance here and they might get away with it. An appeal is so much harder to win than an actual trial, because at trial you get witnesses, you get evidence, you get court rulings and objections. On an appeal, it's purely based on what you can put on paper. And so your appeal, you've got to be able to specifically point to, here are the points of error that the trial court made a mistake on. And so because of this error, they deprived me of my right to a fair trial. Therefore, I need a new trial. You must remand, or you must acquit me, which is what we saw on Bill Cosby, as his appeal ended with him being acquitted, not just granted a new trial. And so it's so much harder to win on an appeal, because you have to take all of these steps first at trial just to be able to preserve that error, so that way you can complain about it on appeal.
That makes sense. There's a lot of work before you're potentially granted a trial. You can't just say, hey, I appeal, and then you go to a new appeal trial. You've got to do work. And he's done so much damage of being pro se and not having legal knowledge that there's no chance, right? Like 0. Is that what you'd put it at, from 1 to 100?
0%. I think that there is no. So there's this type of appeal that we do where we say, if I'm appointed to represent someone on an appeal, and I don't think that they have any non-frivolous grounds for appeal. You can have a frivolous grounds for an appeal, but that's going to get you sanctioned. If they don't have a non-frivolous grounds for appeal, then you file this, what we call an Anders brief, ANDERS. You file an Anders brief and say, look, I've looked over the file to the Court of Appeals. There are no non-frivolous grounds for appeals. Therefore, let me off this case. I want to withdraw.
Right. That's fair.
I think that's what he's facing, honestly.
And if you do appeal and you're granted one, there's a risk involved, right? And 6 Volt Bus mentions it here. I watched defendant get more years on an appeal trial. That is a possibility, right? In some cases.
6 Volt, was that a new trial granted after an appeal? I'm not familiar with the case, but that's always possible, though, because if it gets appealed and the Court of Appeals grants the appeal and remands it back to the trial court for a retrial, all bets are off. It's like the first trial didn't happen. Everything starts over, and that's entirely possible. You could get a worse jury for the defendant that says he needs about 6 more years.
So you run the risk of another jury. During that time of appeal, what if the state new evidence becomes available? Can they now use that in this new trial? Of, well, we didn't have this image of you at the crime scene, but we actually got it while you were sitting in prison trying to appeal. So now your new trial, we can use this. Is that acceptable, or would that not be allowed?
I think they can, so long as it is disclosed, because the state has a duty to turn over all of the evidence prior to us going to trial, because that helps the defendant to learn whether or not they're going to fight it, whether they're going to take a plea deal, how they will construct their defense. And so just knowing that evidence in advance is what determines whether or not they go to trial. When it's learned of, as long as it's disclosed to the defendant in advance, then I think that's fair game.
Wow, that's interesting. I love it. So 6 Volt, he follows up with, it was new trial after appeal. First outcome was 102 years, and then after the retrial was 104. So no real difference maker there. But someone said, we'll just stick it back to you.
Mrs. Ari has a great question in chat right there.
Let me scroll right back up. Where's homeschool grounds? There, Matthew Harris. Here we go. Matthew Harris, do you approach defending someone you believe is guilty? I like it. And we do have a little bit of feedback, a little bit of buzz in the audio. For those of you, if you are catching it or hearing it, Matthew was running home from the weather and through work and did not have his full studio set up. So bear with us if it does come through the audio a little bit.
Is it buzzing right now?
It's picking back up a little bit more right now.
Maybe it's only whenever I'm speaking it doesn't gate out on me. Is that better?
No, now it's a little bit more constant.
Okay. Here, let me try to talk through it, and then we'll see after this answer if it's any better. Sorry to everyone and your poor ears. So, Mrs. Ari, that's a fantastic question, and that's a question that a lot of people have, because a lot of people think that attorneys representing someone in a criminal trial, that they have to believe that my client is innocent and didn't do this. That's not the case, because there are a lot of attorneys that take cases to trial and they know that their client did the action that they're alleged of doing. But it's not dishonest, it's not dishonorable to represent someone that you know has done something horrendous. But the take on it is that whenever you take those cases to trial, is you're going in to defend the Constitution.
Right.
And so you're going in to defend those constitutional rights of just the most deplorable of our society that has done the most horrible and heinous acts. But you have to preserve the Constitution, because if the police got a confession from someone who did something horrible, but they did it in an illegal way or an unconstitutional way, that erodes the constitutional rights of the next defendant that really was innocent. And so now the police are more emboldened to use those illegal tactics to get that confession, where they've now elicited a confession from an innocent person. So that's how most criminal defense attorneys can go to court representing someone that they know probably did it, because that Constitution is the cornerstone of everything that we stand for. And if we can't defend that, if we can't overlook our client to defend that, then we've got no business practicing law.
That makes sense. I guess again, I have no legal knowledge, right? I guess the only thing that I don't love when I watch when there's a defendant who is obviously guilty to the world, right? And I completely understand and respect that the defense attorney has to make sure that they're given a fair trial, follows constitutional rights and all that. But when they start to make a theory of what else could have happened when they present that in their case, I get that comes into play, but sometimes it's so far-fetched and outlandish. I'm always like, why would you try to stretch that far? Because what if someone actually takes that bait and believes this false theory that you're just throwing into the wind, and someone who has committed something real heinous gets off because of this theory thrown out there?
And that's kind of what we saw in the Murdaugh trial, is that they're making this story about how these other people could have been there, and they're painting all of these alternate theories. But that is the reasonable doubt. That what they're trying to do is create that reasonable doubt. That's what we should be happy with. I know that's the part that you don't like, but that's the part that we should be the most happy with whenever defense attorneys actually do that. Because my personal belief is that I would rather 90 guilty people go free rather than convict one innocent person. And so if we have to make that argument and we have to go in and make these outlandish leaps of logical faith to be able to say, well, it could have been these two people and it could have been two guns. And if that creates the reasonable doubt, we shouldn't convict them. If they can create that reasonable doubt with the evidence that's on hand, we don't need to convict them. We should only reserve that for ones that we can find guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
I guess that makes sense, right? If I cannot conclude that the state's evidence presented completely washes out this theory you're presenting, then I need to question it and look a little deeper. So I do like that. See, that's why we ask the questions, because now I understand it a little bit more and why that's done and the tact behind it. Not everyone knows, I don't think, maybe they do, but what cornerstone of law do you practice specifically, and why did you either choose that, and or why do you like that area of law that you've chosen?
So whenever I started my firm, which was just me, I say it was my firm, it was just this guy, me and a desk, and so that was us. Whenever I would talk about us here at the firm, it's me and my desk.
Right.
I started off with a bunch of different areas, because what I was trying to do was to grow it into a firm that would have these individual divisions. And so I started off doing estate planning and management, like wills and trusts. So I had my estate management division, civil litigation division, like personal injury and breaches of contract, consumer law, business law, which is all business formations and mergers and acquisitions, and then family law. So that's what grew into the 4 divisions that we have now. And I have found a lot of passion in family law because I went to law school because I wanted to do criminal defense.
Okay.
And so I did a little bit of criminal defense whenever I first got out of law school. And then what I found is that all of the passion that I have for criminal defense is the same. I get the same satisfaction by doing family law, because the thing that I really get out of it is the ability to just to connect with people, to help them work through real life situations. And at the end of the day, knowing that I made a difference in somebody's life. That's one of the things that I love about family law, is that I can point to at least 2 or 3 families that I have changed every single day whenever I go home. And that's what I'm passionate about.
I love it. So you're actually making me, I'm going to kind of change up my order of questions here then, because it's perfect. It segues right into where I was going to go next. And I think I messed it up, but let's see. Did you ever have a case? So this is a 2-part question. 1, did you ever have a case that you took on early on in your career that made you second guess your career choice and or the niche of law you chose? Part 2, did you ever have a major victory in a trial you worked that was really impactful for you, and it really hit home and it was emotional, and I'm so glad I'm doing what I'm doing, and it was just the best win you've ever had?
Okay, so no, I've never had a case early on or now that's ever made me question what I'm doing. It might just be because I am hard-headed, and also because of my military background. I don't have that I'm in the wrong place, I'm going to give up mentality. I'll tell you what, there's even the hardest day in law is still 10 times better than my best day in Iraq. And so, there's nothing that they can throw at me that's going to make me want to change my life decisions here. And so that's something that I use to my benefit to help my clients, because it's not going to shake me. I can take the lumps, because sometimes I'll be wrong. I might make a bad decision on a case. I might look at the evidence incorrectly. We always say that that's the reason that they call it practice. So whenever we're practicing law, we're working to get better. And so early on in my career, I might have made a mistake here or there. Nothing catastrophic. It's more of whenever I say mistake, I'm thinking that piece of evidence didn't come in, or the judge didn't like the way that I presented my evidence. And so I learned from it and I grew. And so nothing's ever really shaken me and made me have that second thought. Victories. So I'm not bragging, but I've got a lot of victories to choose from. I've got one that's it might seem like it's benign, but it really meant a lot to me. So I represent Santa Claus. I'm legally Santa Claus's attorney. So very early on, I had a client that came to me. Let me say, I would never, ever reveal the name of a client, except that I got special permission from this client. And so I tell everybody that I represent Santa Claus. So a young man came to me, and he was just kind of down on his luck a little bit, because he had talked to seven other attorneys before he came to me. Okay. And all 7 of them said, that's impossible. You can't do that. He wanted to change his name legally to Santa Claus. And so he had really good reasons, believe it or not. And he's not who you would expect. He was 19, thin as a rail, stark blonde hair, not who you would expect to be named Santa Claus. And so in talking with him, Do what?
Not Santa Claus at all.
No, he did not look like your typical Santa Claus. But one of the reasons is that he had he had his reasons that he didn't like his old name, and
Okay.
so then someone he gave a homeless guy $20, and the homeless guy said, "Man, you're like Santa Claus," and the friend with him started calling him Santa Claus from that point forward, and it kind of spread, and so everyone had already known him as Santa Claus, and so he came to me, and I put the fight in. So we go to trial, and the judge. Let me tell you, this is the only time I've ever had a trial for a name change.
I was going to ask that, so I'm glad you're elaborating there.
Yeah, because normally you submit the paperwork, you check off all the right boxes, and the judges will they'll sign off on the name change because you've met your elements. Every judge that I tried to get to just sign off on it said, "Mr. Harris, you're going to need a hearing for that." We go into the hearing, and it's a packed courtroom. I mean, it was completely full of all of the other judges in the courthouse, the bailiffs, other attorneys. Everybody came to come watch Santa Claus's trial. And so, because I told client, look, if we're gonna, if we walk out of here and we don't win this thing, it's not going to be a lack of effort. So we start putting on evidence of all of the celebrities' ridiculous child's names that they got to name, all the different reasons that he wanted to. And I was calling witnesses. And then finally, the judge said, counsel, we approach, he goes, I'm ready to grant your damn motion. Just stop calling witnesses.
You wore him out. You wore him out.
So we went, because I told client, we're not walking out of there without a fight. And so that's one of those that was very early on in my career. It made an impact on me because after 7 other attorneys told him no, and I said yes, and I got the victory, that just meant a lot to me, and it taught me a lot about just the tenacity of being a good attorney.
That's so awesome. See, when I'm drafting my questions to get ready to read, I'm trying to anticipate the answers I might get from you during this time, right? And I'm thinking about how passionate some of the fights against CPS are and all this other stuff. That's why these are so much fun. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I would hear you discuss fighting for Santa Claus and getting it done. Yep. But I love the story. That's so cool.
I've got another a short fun story if you want to hear it.
Yes, absolutely.
So it was a CPS case, and my client lived in New Mexico, which has medical marijuana. Mm-hmm. CPS was trying to terminate his rights, but he had a medical marijuana card.
Okay.
And so normally judges are not very happy with you coming up positive on drug tests. And so that was the argument that we were going to make. We were going and fighting the good fight. And so my client was extremely nervous because he really cared about his daughter, and he wasn't the offending parent. He wasn't the reason that CPS got called. He was what we call the non-offending parent, but he lived in New Mexico and he tested positive for weed. That's a difficult case to win in Texas. Right. And so I am well known for pranks. And so I know it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe.
Uh-huh.
And so I always keep these little rubber spiders and snakes in my padfolio, mainly because I like watching the bailiffs' faces whenever they look at it through the x-rays. I'm going into the courthouse.
Right. And
so I'm sitting there with him in trial. We get the all rise, and we stand up and we sit down, and the judge is still taking the bench. And I reach in and I look to my client and I go, oh no. And he goes, what's the matter? And I said, I've got a roach in here. And he was like, word? And I pull out a rubber roach and show it to him. And he loses it, cracks up laughing. And he tells me afterwards, he goes, Matthew, I got to tell you, that was the dumbest thing, but it set me at ease because I knew that you had control of the situation, and it just that one little bit of laugh, it broke all the tension. And so that's what allowed me to get through it. So,
that's awesome.
That's little things like that.
I love that. Oh, that's funny. It's setting a client at ease. That only helps you too, right? It allows you to work with them and them to be forthcoming or work with you and give you what you need while you're doing what you're doing. So I'm a big believer that attorneys aren't just extremely smart to know and have the knowledge. They have to be people persons, if you will, because whether you think your client's innocent or guilty, you still have to connect with them in some form so you can get through a trial successfully, no matter the outcome, and productively. Would you agree that being a people person is pretty important in the role you're in?
It absolutely is, because one of the things that I tell clients whenever I'm first starting the litigation is, listen, you have hired me to worry about this. You take that stress off of your shoulders and you're going to put it on my shoulders because I can handle it. I need you to focus on taking care of your family and taking care of your kids. You don't need to focus. You don't need to worry about the stress anymore. It's on my shoulders. Take it off of yours. And so if you can't do that and set your clients at ease, they're going to consistently second guess your decisions on the case. And so being that people person is what makes the real difference in being able to have a good client management.
I like it. It makes sense. Again, I don't know much about it, but it's kind of where my mind goes. And Tish agrees here. She says a good relationship between the client and the attorney is so vital. It changes everything. I have a really good friend.
Tish is one who would know because she's a paralegal. She knows how important that is. Absolutely.
It makes sense. Absolutely. I've got a good buddy here locally that he's one of my golf partners and I've known him for a long time. He's a defense attorney on the criminal side. And he was the fourth assigned attorney to a individual charged with a gruesome murder. And the reason he was the fourth, because the defendant would not talk or communicate with his attorneys that were being appointed to him. He wasn't giving them any information to help his case and prepare for his trial, and was rude and vulgar and demeaning and threatening. And so I can only imagine if there's no connection, I mean, good luck. So of course, my friend wasn't the last one. He ended up on the 7th, I think.
God.
And the trial was like 4 days. He got life in prison forever, never getting out. I mean, it's incredible.
Well, here's the one piece of advice that I always tell people on hiring an attorney. So not everyone that calls my office ends up hiring me. Sometimes it's just we may not vibe. And I always tell them, listen, whether you hire me or not, the one piece of advice, because this is the only thing that I ever tell people whenever it comes to hiring an attorney, is hire someone that you feel comfortable talking to. Because if you don't feel comfortable telling them where all of your dirty laundry is and airing that out, how can they prepare for it and prepare your defense whenever you go to trial? And so that communication is so key.
I believe it. That makes sense. So kind of along those lines, what do you wish the general public would know most about the law or their rights? And I know you probably have a laundry list full of so many, but if you could narrow it down to, one or two key items that people would really know about the law, what would be not advice, but some insight you would give for that?
Oh, this is a really broad answer. If I can come up with something a little bit more specific, I will. But the thing that I wish that more people knew is that they need to know their rights. They need to be educated. And so a lot of times people come to me after the fact, after everything has already turned south. It's either the contract has been breached, the divorce is already going forward, or they've already signed an agreed divorce decree. For whatever it is, they've already gotten themselves into the mess. And a lot of it because they turned the other cheek. They were ignorant to it. They closed their eyes and just sped through it, sometimes literally. And they haven't taken the time to get educated on their rights and to be educated on the law. And instead, they just trust that at some point, whenever they need an attorney, they're going to hire someone that knows the law. But really, what attorneys do, we're kind of like chefs. And so I always use a cake analogy. So you come to me with milk, eggs, and flour. I tell you, yeah, you've got the ingredients to make a cake. So here's what we can do with it. Well, if they've already waived milk and flour and they just bring me eggs, there's no cake. You've got an omelet at best.
Egg on your face.
So, that's it. So that's the thing that I wish more people would take the time, would be to educate themselves on their rights. And, just in this moment, I was realizing that's the whole purpose of my YouTube channel is just educating people on their rights, and not just their rights, but the law in general, even areas that they don't typically deal with, just because there are so many laws out there that we don't even realize. There's a book, I want to say it's called 5 Felonies a Day. They can correct me in chat, but there are, because we have so many laws on the books right now, the average U.S. citizen commits 5 felonies a day. And so most of us don't realize that. And whenever you take the time to just educate yourself just a little bit, it's one of those that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And so that's what I wish that I can impart on more people, is take the time and just get educated.
I like that. That reminds me of kind of the rabbit hole you can go down of, it's illegal in Georgia to have a banana in your back pocket walking down the sidewalk, right? It kind of reminds me of that type of thing. Hopping over to chat, Red Pen has a great question that I think needs to be highlighted here. And it's, Matthew, if you were paid an obscene, unbelievable amount of money, and I think I know the answer to this, would you represent Sarah Boone? I feel like I knew it'd be yes, right?
Absolutely, I would. Absolutely, because Sarah Boone is probably the perfect example. And Penn, I appreciate the question, because we've all seen the video. We're all able to make our own decisions just based on the video and her actions at that time. But at the same time, she's still entitled to a defense. And so there's the possibility, just a possibility at least, that video doesn't come into evidence. There's the possibility that the police obtain that in violation of her rights. And so if they illegally searched her phone and that's how they got that video, and that doesn't come in, that's a much harder case to win. And so it would be defending that constitutional right for the next person. That would be my basis for defending her, not because I would think that she's innocent, though.
Spoken like a good attorney. Absolutely. What an answer. And then the follow-up, Katrina, but would you give her your phone number? Because we all see how she likes to communicate.
Absolutely, I would. Type burner in the chat and you pass that on to Sarah Boone. She can reach me any time of day.
I will say, since this is brought up, I do feel like her current her current attorney and what she's facing is a bit unjust. I feel like she needs more communication, more timely, that's her right, whether she's guilty or not. I mean, obviously a lot of people, because of the video, assume and think she's guilty. So just say she is. She still, I think it's unjust, the attention and the representation she's currently receiving, in my opinion. What do you think?
Well,
and I don't mean to put you in a hot spot with other attorneys or lawyers also. So if that ever comes up, you can bypass that question.
No, I'll point the finger all day long. That's what attorneys do. If I can't pick on someone else and point out their perceived flaws, what am I doing as an attorney? And it's not to say that they're a bad person or anything, but if they're making mistakes, or they're making or they're ethically not upholding their duty to their client, that's what we need to do, is to be able to point that out. Because otherwise, let's just say, you as the general public, if you see the way that an attorney is treating a defendant, and you take that as, oh, well, now that's the way it's supposed to be, and you feel that that's unjust, you're going to become disenfranchised with our legal system, which is a detriment to everybody. So we have to be able to point those out. Now, I will say first, all of our information that we get on whether or not Sarah Boone's attorney is acting ethically, we're getting from Sarah. So we've got to take that with a big grain of salt. Because it's all of her handwritten letters to the judge that says that he's not calling her back. He very well might be, and we're just hearing her version. But I say that just so that way, presuming that what Sarah says is true, and that he's not calling her back, he's not returning her letters or emails or coming to see her or talk to her. if that's true, that is very concerning, because every person is entitled to a defense. And if that is the best defense that she gets, is someone that won't call her back and won't return letters and won't come see her and counsel her on the case, that's not justice. She deserves that defense. It is the most heinous of our society that deserves the strongest defense, because we have to protect those. Because whenever it comes, it's easy for us to ignore them and let their rights get trampled on. But it's like the old saying, whenever they came for me, there was no one left to speak up.
I like it. What a good answer. That's, I try to think about it. If I was, charged with a crime and I knew I didn't do it and I was innocent and I was in a situation like that, and, say I didn't have the funds to go out and hire my own, and that was the representation I was getting, that is so frightening. Because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my trial is coming, and it's coming, and the judge has finally said it's happening this day regardless. That is a real frightening thing to think about.
And that's the reason that I have to be able to point to that, so that way people know that's not acceptable. It's not okay to be ignored by your attorney, who is appointed by the state, that is trying to put you in jail for the rest of your life, or sometimes worse.
That's true. Wow. So much to go on. And it's funny because we could probably go on and on and on and on and on, especially with the knowledge. But speaking of your knowledge, if you could give a new aspiring attorney and or just someone who loves learning law advice in regards to what to learn or where to go first to dive in, what advice would you give in that regard?
So there are, that actually matches up with a question from Mrs. R.A. just a minute ago, asking where should people go if they want to learn about their rights?
Besides your YouTube channel.
Yeah, the Matthew Harris Law YouTube channel, which, by the way, I just now saw I am 5 subscribers away from hitting 5,000. So maybe soon.
So if anyone in chat is not subscribed, I actually I linked your channel in the description for this podcast, since not all commands are active currently. So your link is in the description. If you're not subscribed to Matthew Harris, it's down there. Click it, give him a sub, give him to 5K.
I feel like we're going to get there tonight. So there are a lot of resources out there for people to go and just learn about their rights. What I would direct people first is to the state bar. So each state has their own bar association. There's an American Bar Association as well, that's just kind of a collective, but that's a voluntary bar. Most states have a mandatory bar. So I'm a member of the Texas bar. The Texas bar, and so I'm going to use that as an example because we do a lot of the same thing across the different states. The Texas State Bar has within it the Texas Young Lawyers Association, TYLA. I was on the board of directors for the Texas Young Lawyers Association for 4 years, represented an 18-county constituency, and the Young Lawyers Association is the public service arm of the state bar. So basically the state bar lets all of the young attorneys do all the public service work because we're still young and we've got energy. And so something that TYLA puts out for people that are in Texas are programs, pamphlets, websites, everything that you can think of. They've got people who are working on those to educate the public, because it's not just that we want to find something to work on or we need a service project. It's more of we want to give information to people who can't afford to go and hire an attorney right this moment. And let's give them good information that they can rely on going to court. And so we've got a team of literally a whole committee of attorneys putting together pamphlets for landlord-tenant cases, so that way people know, so that way tenants know, here are my rights with my landlord. Here's where I get to withhold rent. Here's how I can break my lease early. Here are the things that my landlord can't force me to do. And so it's that educational aspect from the Bar Association is beneficial to the public. And that's where I would tell people to go and look at your own respective state bars, because they're going to put that sort of information out there for you.
That's awesome. I love it. I actually, because of now what I'm so involved in with the RA channel and the community and all these trials, I don't foresee myself quitting anytime soon. I want to educate myself a little bit more on the law. So I'll, instead of trying to text you 24/7 and ask questions, I might send a quick visit so I can see. Erin Patterson says she's loving this tonight. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thanks for being here. This is fun. We miss RA, but we are thankful Matthew Harris is able to join us and be here tonight so we can put on a little bit of a show. So you've got your YouTube channel. It gives a lot of insight and a lot of knowledge. So for all that legal information, everyone, if you're not subscribed, go there. If you are, go check out some of his videos. He's got a new one out today that is just blowing up. It's getting all the attention in the world. Where are you at this afternoon as far as views and whatnot on that? I know we talked about it earlier.
Oh, let's see. That video, it's just shy of 50,000 views, which is about 49,500 more than I normally get.
That's incredible. What was the let the chat know, what was the subject matter on that one?
So I did a video. This is one that I did that was it applied across a lot more states into the entire US, and rather than just Texas specific. This video was about the secret militia. So there's this militia out there that most people have never heard of, but most men are automatically a member of it. It's called the unorganized militia. So there's this unorganized militia according to the US code, because there's an organized militia is your National Guard. Unorganized militia is everybody else who is liable to serve. So most of the men in chat are, actually I'd say almost all of the men in chat are most likely in this unorganized militia.
I love it. No spoilers in chat if you've already seen it. I had a busy afternoon and now the podcast, so I will be watching that once we're done tonight, and I'm excited. That sounds like a fun one. No wonder it's getting so much traction.
Here's what's going to break your heart, though. Let me tell you.
It's not a cool militia.
Spoiler alert. Texas has gutted and nearly pretty much eviscerated their unorganized militia. It's going to break your heart.
So I'm not in a militia.
You are in the U.S. unorganized militia.
Gotcha.
But not the Texas militia, though. Sad to say.
That is sad. I'm still going to watch the video so I can figure out all this madness. So making a jump from all your legal insight and everything, and I absolutely appreciate it. And I've learned a bunch already from this, more than I even expected to coming in. I want to jump a little bit into Matthew Harris. For one, let's start with what do you do in your off time for fun? Outside of obviously watching trials and hanging out with the RA community. But what does Matthew Harris do if the wife's out of town, it's Saturday and it's noon? What do you go do?
Honestly, I think the last year has been nothing but YouTube in my off time. But it's kind of turned into a little bit of a hobby. Beyond that, it's probably planning trips. Every year, my wife and I take some sort of big trip for an annual vacation. And so my free time for the year is spent building the itinerary for our big upcoming trip. Last year we had this really big trip where we flew to Chicago, rented a car, and drove all the way down to Virginia Beach, and then all the way up to Maine. And so we hit 19 states in 9 days. Wow. And this year we're going to fly to Denver, rent a car, and then hit all of the Pacific Northwest. So all the way up to the Dakotas, through Nebraska, up to the Dakotas, across to Washington, down to Utah, and then we'll fly home from Utah.
Wow, that's a lot of fun. That's you get to cram in a lot of sights and scenery and locations all in one get-go.
Well, and so we're trying to knock off all 50 states. And so after this trip, the only one left is going to be Alaska.
Oh, that's awesome. I wish I could gift that to you. I've been to Alaska about 4 different times. So now that you're saying, I need to sit down and check off my map and see where I've been. Now, of course, a lot of mine through my travels with hockey and whatnot, it's, hotel, airport connection gone, but I touched ground in those states. So I kind of want to check those off and see how many, because I know it's been quite a few those areas. Hawaii is one definitely have not been, and that's on the bucket list. Have you been out to Hawaii?
We did Hawaii for our 20th anniversary 2 years ago.
Wow, that's pretty good anniversary.
Where do you recommend? Give me a recommendation. Where should I go in Alaska?
Well, so I've only been to 2 different places, Anchorage and Kenai River. Now, when I went in the depth of winter for hockey season, it was January. We went 4 years in a row, and we were there for 2 weeks because we would play the team in Anchorage for 2-game stand, and then we'd bus to Kenai River, and we lived there for a week and practice before those 2 games. And then typically from there, we go back to Anchorage, and then we fly over to Bozeman, Montana, and stay there and play those 2 games. So it's a heck of a trip. I still actually have some former teammates that are from there. So I will reach out to them off air to see, hey, what are some of the best places to go, the most feasible? I will say the most terrifying time of my life was you get on the bus in Anchorage to head to Kenai, and it's Old Smoky is the bus, and the bus driver has been driving this bus for about 150 years. And it's not a nice bus that we would typically travel in, but he's like the designated one that takes these trips up this windy mountain with no guardrail. It's nearly one way, pulling a trailer with all of our equipment, and he's ripping around this mountain because he's done it his whole life for 100 years. And you literally are sitting in this bus looking around. This is the day I will die. This is the day I will die. It was the most terrifying thing in the entire world, and I'm so glad I don't ever have to do it anymore. But the guy, he's a pro. It was amazing. But yeah, count me out. Never again.
I can just imagine you white knuckling a bus ride, young Thomas with all of his future ahead of him. But he's got a hockey stick in one hand and a handful of bus seat in the other. Just
terrified. And I was a goalie too, right? So people are shooting, pucks 80 to 100 miles an hour at me all the time, and that was just fun. Absolutely loved it. But this bus ride, no, scariest thing in the entire world. So I don't recommend that for your trip when you go there. Agreed. I want to fire into the last segment. We're just over an hour and change here. Okay, this is what we call rapid fire, and I didn't do this with RA in his interview, so you're the first one.
Yes.
So I'm going to go through. Let's see, I've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just shy of 10 questions. Very short. You have ballpark 3 seconds to just give out your answer.
I can do that.
You can do it. You ready?
Let's see.
There you go. All right. Any career but law, what is it?
Military.
Oh, I didn't think about that because you had them. Okay. On the weekends, cowboy boots or other?
Other.
My. Ice cream flavor?
Oh, I'm trying to remember the name. The Texas two-step from Bluebell.
Okay. I like it. Yep. I've had that one before. Your choice.
For everybody that doesn't know, it's chocolate chip cookie dough and cookies and cream.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's the 2 best ice creams put together. Superpower.
Mind reading.
Well, it goes with your job. That's perfect. Yeah. I personally would take flight.
I'd take mine. Yep, I'd take mind reading.
But have you ever thought about some of the scary things that you're going to unveil when reading someone's mind?
That's still a lot better than bugs in your teeth, though. I imagine at some point I would probably take a seagull to the face if I could fly. So I just probably not.
That's true. But what about the day you come home and you've upset your wife and you actually get to know what she's thinking? Do you really want to know that?
Well, okay, so the mind reading, it could be selective. It's not like you always have to fly. Just you have the power to read minds.
Okay, fair enough. I'm with that. Okay. You may not eat it, but if you had to, fast food restaurant.
My go-to fast food is probably Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, that's a solid choice. I like that one. That would be mine. That or Jack in the Box.
It's the Lord's chicken. You can't go wrong.
My pleasure.
My pleasure.
You've got one final meal. What is it?
Steak.
I'm with you. What are your sides?
I'm going to go with asparagus and broccoli.
Interesting. Dual vegetables.
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah,
think we-
honestly, I'm not a big pasta or potato guy, so I'd rather go dual veggie.
Okay, I can appreciate that. Favorite YouTube channel? Can't be yours, RA's. Not one known to the community so much. What's your favorite YouTube channel that you're gonna watch? Not mine either. So no, that's not it.
Guilty pleasure. Cartnarks is that's my guilty pleasure. For y'all, well, actually, I won't explain. I'll let you explain.
So a lot of good insight on that channel. I do recommend it. I did not know about them until Matthew and I were having a long conversation on a Saturday morning about YouTube and things to do. But I definitely recommend people check it out because the insight and the value that they give is, I didn't even realize that half of what's out there and what they show. So not too much detail, not gonna spoil it. Look it up. Cartnark. That's a good one.
It's good life lessons for everyone, I think.
Aztec Art, favorite YouTube channel. So they're in there. Virginia Little says 13th Jurors, Brandy and JT over there. That's a good one. All right, we've got two left.
Well, I avoided Brandy because I was trying to stay outside of our RA community. I mean, I'm over there on the 13th Juror on a regular basis, but
100%. That was a
Yep.
bit part of that. So we're gonna go. Let's see. I need to change something real quick. Okay, two more left. Dream car. Money's not an issue.
Dream car is a 1967 Ford Mustang Fastback.
Love it. Staying classy.
Yep.
That's a car.
Yeah, not the Shelby GT500 Fastback.
I like it. Absolutely. And last but not least, your favorite weatherman.
My favorite weatherman. It's this guy that I know in Wichita Falls, Texas. Tall guy. He's a lot taller in person than what you'd expect. I haven't seen him on TV in a while. Handsome man, though. You should check him out. I'll get his name and I'll pass it on to you.
Oh, fair enough. Had to set you up for that one. I appreciate it. That's too funny. That's fun. Well, Matthew, so gracious of you to come on and join for the podcast. For those of you don't know, I reached out to him and said, "Hey, are you available to come be a part of this, do an interview?" And he said, "Let me check my schedule and I'll get back to you, and give me a few hours." And it was like 1 minute. He goes, "What do you know? I'm free and I'm there. I'm ready. Let's do it." So I was really excited when you said you would. I know we made a few community posts that you were going to be here, and a lot of people are excited. So thank you for your time because we know you're busy. The insight and chat you give us, and here you are after hours just continuing to do it and giving back. So thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you to the chat. They have some great questions today, as always. And also, great news, we're at 5,000 subscribers now. Woohoo!
And I saw some people in chat that said when the stream is over, they were going to pop in over there and subscribe to you and check out your video too. So that number will just keep on growing.
My pleasure to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
Perfect. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in on this podcast and being here. Again, thank you to Matthew. Have a safe and a really fun weekend. And do not forget, Monday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time, Recovery Addict is going to be back streaming the Scott Peterson trial with closing arguments to begin. So thanks again, everyone, and have a fantastic weekend.
You too. See you, Thomas.